The deep space around Kepler Station was darker than anything Jake Morrison had ever seen. The prison facility hung in the void like a giant metal spider, its arms reaching out toward the dead star that gave it power. Jake pressed his face against the window of the Independence and watched the station grow larger as they approached. "Captain, we're getting close," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her seat at the communications panel. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the nervousness underneath. They all knew what waited for them on that station. Dr. Lisa Hayes looked up from her tablet where she had been reading the mission files for the 100th time. "I still can't believe the Council chose us for this," she said. "Every other species has refused this job for over 1,000 years." Commander Ben Carter checked his weapon one more time. "Maybe that's exactly why they picked humans," he said. "We're too new to know better." Jake turned away from the window and faced his crew. These 3 people had been with him for 5 years, through first contact with a dozen alien species and more dangerous missions than he could count. But nothing had prepared them for this. "Let's go over it one more time," Jake said. "We dock with Kepler Station. We meet with the warden. We go down to the high security level and we talk to the prisoner they call the Dragon. That's it, we talk. We ask questions. We try to understand what makes this thing so dangerous that the entire galaxy is afraid of it." "Thing?" Dr. Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Jake, according to these files, the Dragon is intelligent. It once led an entire civilization. We should think of it as a person, not a thing." Ben shook his head. "A person doesn't destroy 3 star systems. The reports say billions died because of this creature." "The reports also say that was over 1,200 years ago," Lisa pointed out. "People can change in 1,200 years, can they?" Amy asked quietly. "Can something that powerful really change?" Jake didn't have an answer for that. In truth, he wasn't sure why the Galactic Council had given this mission to humanity. The official reason was that humans were neutral, having no history with the Dragon or the ancient war that led to its capture. But Jake suspected there was more to it than that. The Independents shuddered slightly as they entered the station's docking bay. Through the metal walls, Jake could feel the weight of the massive structure around them. Kepler Station had been built for one purpose: to hold the most dangerous prisoner in the galaxy. Every system, every corridor, every piece of technology was designed to contain something that could bend reality with its mind. "Docking complete," Amy reported. "The station warden is requesting immediate contact." "Put him through," Jake said. The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. Its body reflected the light in strange patterns, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through broken glass. "I am Warden Zektar," the alien said. "You are the humans who have come to speak with the Dragon." "That's right," Jake replied. "I'm Captain Morrison. This is my team." Zektar's crystalline head tilted to one side. "In my 300 years as warden of this station, no one has ever requested to interview the Dragon. The Council's other species consider it far too dangerous. They say even looking at the Dragon can drive a person mad." "Have you ever seen it?" Lisa asked. "No," Zektar admitted. "No one has been within a kilometer of its cell since the day it was imprisoned. The automated systems handle everything: food, medical scans, waste removal. The Dragon has been in complete isolation for 1,240 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. 1,200 years of solitary confinement. He tried to imagine what that would do to a person's mind, even one that was supposedly as powerful as the Dragon. "We'd like to see the security files," Ben said. "Everything you have on the containment systems." Zektar's crystal body flashed a deep red color. "The containment systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. Psionic dampeners that can block mental powers. Energy fields that can stop anything from matter to pure thought. Quantum locks that exist in 17 dimensions. The Dragon cannot escape. It cannot even communicate with the outside world." "Then how dangerous can it really be right now?" Jake asked. "You do not understand," Zektar said, his voice growing more agitated. "The Dragon is not just powerful. It is clever. It is patient. For 1,200 years it has been thinking, planning, waiting. Who knows what it has learned in all that time?" Amy leaned forward. "What exactly did it do during the war?" "The files we received were pretty basic." Zektar was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "The Dragon could change the laws of physics with its thoughts. It could turn stars into weapons. It could make planets disappear or create new ones from nothing. The final battle against its people required the combined fleets of 40 species. Even then, we barely won." "But we did win," Lisa said. And now it's alone, cut off from its power. Maybe it's ready to talk. The dragon's people called themselves the Drakmari, Zektar continued. They believed they were gods. They saw other species as insects to be destroyed or ignored. The dragon was their leader, their emperor, their god-king. It showed no mercy to anyone. Jake stood up. Well, we're going to find out if 1200 years has changed its mind. We'd like to see the dragon tomorrow. Zektar's entire body turned a deep blue color. I cannot stop you. The council has given you full authority. But I warn you, humans are a young species. You have not lived long enough to understand true evil. Some things should remain locked away forever. After the connection ended, Jake's team sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Ben spoke up. Maybe Zektar is right. Maybe some things are too dangerous to mess with. Or maybe, Lisa said slowly, 1200 years of isolation has taught the dragon something that the rest of the galaxy needs to learn. Jake looked around at his crew. Tomorrow, they would become the first living beings in over a millennium to stand in the presence of the most feared creature in galactic history. Part of him wondered if they would live to regret it. But another part of him, the part that had made him a starship captain, was curious about what they might discover. After all, every monster in human history had once been just a person who had lost their way. Maybe the dragon was no different. Maybe it was time for someone to find out. Jake Morrison had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing compared to the feeling of walking through Kepler Station's maximum security level. The corridors were lined with energy barriers that hummed with power. Every few meters, they passed through scanning fields that checked their DNA, their thoughts, and even their quantum signatures. Dr. Lisa Hayes walked beside him, her portable scanner beeping softly as it recorded everything they saw. Behind them, Commander Ben Carter kept his hand near his weapon, though they all knew that normal weapons would be useless against something like the dragon. The containment systems get stronger the deeper we go, Warden Zektar explained as he led them through another checkpoint. By the time we reach the dragon's level, the psionic dampeners will be so powerful that even the strongest telepaths would be reduced to normal thoughts. What about the dragon itself? Lisa asked. How does it survive under that kind of suppression? The Drakmari were different from other psychic species, Zektar replied. Their mental powers were part of their basic biology. Cutting them off completely would kill them, so the dampeners are calibrated to leave just enough psychic ability for the dragon to stay alive, but not enough to be dangerous. They reached the final checkpoint, a massive vault door that looked like it could withstand a supernova. Zektar placed his crystalline hand on a scanner, and the door began to open with a sound like thunder. Beyond this point I cannot go, Zektar said. My species has a genetic fear of the Drakmari that goes back thousands of years. Even knowing the dragon is contained, I cannot force myself to get any closer. Jake looked at his team. Anyone else want to stay behind? Ben stepped forward. I'm coming with you, Captain. Someone needs to watch your back. No, Jake said firmly. I'm going in with Lisa only. If something goes wrong, I need you out here to get help. Jake, that's not safe, Ben protested. Ben, that's an order, Jake replied. Lisa and I go in alone. You and Amy stay here with Zektar. If we're not back in 2 hours, you seal this place up and report to the council. Lisa shouldered her equipment bag. Ready when you are, Captain. Jake took a deep breath and stepped through the vault door. The corridor beyond was different from the rest of the station. The walls were made of some kind of black metal that seemed to absorb light. The air itself felt heavy, charged with energy from the massive containment systems. They walked for what felt like kilometers, going deeper and deeper into the station's core. Finally, they reached a circular chamber with an observation deck overlooking a transparent barrier. Beyond the barrier was a cell unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The cell was enormous, easily the size of a football stadium. But what caught Jake's attention was not the size, but the occupant. In the center of the cell, sitting in what looked like a meditation pose, was a figure that appeared almost human. The dragon was tall and lean, with skin that had a faint scaling pattern that caught the light. Its hair was long and silver, and its face looked both ancient and ageless. Most striking were its eyes, which glowed with a soft inner light even through the containment barriers. It looked so normal, Lisa whispered. As if hearing her words, the dragon's eyes suddenly opened and looked directly at them. Jake felt a chill run through his body as those glowing eyes focused on him with an intelligence that was clearly not human. Slowly, the dragon stood up and walked toward the barrier. When it spoke, its voice was clear and strong, carrying easily through the containment systems. "Visitors?" the dragon said, and there was surprise in its voice. "In all my years of imprisonment, no one has ever come to see me. I had begun to think I was forgotten." Jake stepped closer to the barrier. "We're from Earth, humans. The Galactic Council sent us to talk to you." The dragon tilted its head, studying Jake with curiosity. "Humans, I do not know this species. You must be new to the galactic community." "Very new," Lisa said, activating her recording equipment. "We've only been part of the council for about 10 years. 10 years, the dragon repeated thoughtfully. "I have been here for 1,240 years, 7 months and 16 days. Time moves slowly when you have nothing but your thoughts for company." "What's your name?" Jake asked. The dragon seemed surprised by the question. "My name? I am called Varos. I was once the High Commander of the Drakmari Empire, though that empire has been dust for longer than most civilizations have existed." Lisa leaned forward. "Varos, we've read the historical records about the war between your people and the Galactic Alliance. But the records are incomplete. We'd like to hear your side of the story." Varos was quiet for a long moment, his glowing eyes distant. "My side of the story," he said finally. "Yes, I suppose there are always multiple sides to any story. Tell me, what do your records say about the Drakmari?" "They say your people attacked 3 star systems without warning," Jake replied. "That billions of innocent people died. That your species saw itself as superior to all other life forms." Varos nodded slowly. "All of that is true from a certain point of view. But it is not the whole truth." "Then tell us the whole truth," Lisa said gently. Varos began to pace slowly within his cell. "The Drakmari were once guardians, not conquerors. For millions of years we watched over this galaxy, protecting it from threats that came from the darkness between stars. We were powerful, yes, but we used that power to defend the innocent." "What changed?" Jake asked. "We discovered something terrible," Varos continued. "Something approaching from the void beyond our galaxy. Entities of pure hunger that consume not just matter and energy, but reality itself. We called them the Void Swimmers." Lisa's scanner was picking up emotional distress from Varos as he spoke. His calm exterior was hiding deep pain and regret. "The Void Swimmers were still far away, but we could detect their approach. We calculated that they would reach our galaxy in approximately 1,500 years. We tried to warn the other species, but they did not believe us. They thought we were lying to gain power over them." "So you decided to force them to listen?" Jake asked. Varos stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. "We panicked. For the first time in our history, the Drakmari faced a threat we could not easily defeat. We became desperate. We convinced ourselves that the other species were too primitive to understand the danger, that we had to save them despite themselves. By destroying 3 star systems?" Lisa's voice carried a hint of anger. "We were trying to build weapons," Varos said, his voice growing quieter. "Weapons powerful enough to fight the Void Swimmers. We needed the energy from those stars, the resources from those planets. We told ourselves that the deaths of billions now would save trillions later. But it didn't work," Jake said. "No," Varos replied sadly. "It did not work. The other species united against us before we could complete our preparations. My people died fighting a war they should never have started, and I, the one who led them down that dark path, was left alive to think about what we had done wrong." Lisa looked at her readings. "Varos, you've had over 1,200 years to think about this. What have you concluded?" Varos sat down again, his shoulders sagging with the weight of centuries. "I have concluded that we became the very thing we sought to protect against. In our fear of the Void Swimmers, we became destroyers ourselves. We let our arrogance blind us to other solutions." "Other solutions?" Jake asked. "Cooperation," Varos said simply. "If we had been patient, if we had worked with the other species instead of trying to control them, we might have found a better way. But the Drakmari had been alone for so long that we had forgotten how to ask for help." Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. This was not the monster they had expected to find. "Varos," Lisa said carefully, "the threat you spoke of, the Void Swimmers, do you still believe they're coming?" Varos looked up at her with those glowing eyes, and in them, Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. "Dr. Hayes," Varos said quietly, "they are not coming anymore. According to my calculations, they should be arriving very soon." Jake Morrison felt his heart skip a beat. "What do you mean they should be arriving soon?" Varos stood up again and moved closer to the barrier. Even through the containment systems, Jake could feel the intensity of the dragon's presence. Captain Morrison, how much do you know about long-range deep space scanning? Enough, Jake replied carefully. Our ships can detect large objects up to about 50 light-years away. The Drakmari could scan much further, Varos said. Before my imprisonment, we could detect massive gravitational disturbances from thousands of light-years away. The void swimmers create such disturbances when they move through space. Dr. Lisa Hayes activated her communication device. I need to contact my team. If what you're saying is true, we need to verify it immediately. Dr. Hayes, Varos said urgently, your people need to scan the outer rim of the galaxy, particularly the region toward the Magellanic Clouds. Look for areas where space itself seems to be wrong, where light bends in impossible ways or where gravity doesn't behave as it should. Lisa spoke quickly into her communicator. Amy, I need you to contact the Independents. Have them run a full deep space scan on the galactic rim. Coordinates to follow. Priority Alpha. Jake studied Varos carefully. You've been imprisoned for over 1,200 years. How could you possibly know the void swimmers are close to arriving now? Varos began pacing again, his movements showing an agitation that hadn't been there before. Because I can feel them, he said. Even through all these containment systems, even with my powers dampened to almost nothing, I can sense their approach. They are like a cold wind blowing through the fabric of reality itself. Describe them, Lisa said, her scientific mind taking over. What exactly are the void swimmers? Varos paused, clearly struggling to find words that could convey the horror he was describing. Imagine something that exists in the spaces between atoms, in the gaps between thoughts. They are not matter as you understand it, nor energy, nor even antimatter. They are absence itself given form and hunger. That doesn't make sense, Jake said. It does not make sense because your species has never encountered them, Varos replied. The void swimmers consume reality by making it never have existed in the first place. A planet they feed on doesn't just die or explode. It simply was never there at all. The inhabitants, their history, their culture, their very existence gets erased from the universe as if it never happened. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. How is that possible? They exist partially outside of normal space-time, Varos explained. They can reach backwards through causality and unmake the events that led to their target's existence. This is why they are so dangerous and why conventional weapons cannot stop them. Jake's communicator buzzed. Amy's voice came through with barely controlled excitement. Captain, you need to hear this. We've detected massive gravitational anomalies on the galactic rim. The computer says it's impossible, but the readings are definitely there. Put Commander Carter on, Jake said. Ben's voice came through the communicator, tight with tension. Jake, I've never seen anything like this. There are areas out there where our sensors can't get consistent readings. It's like space itself is flickering. Varos nodded grimly. The advanced scouts have arrived. The main force will not be far behind. Lisa looked up from her recording equipment. Varos, if what you're saying is true, then the war 1,200 years ago. Was the Drakmari trying to prepare defenses against an enemy that no one else believed existed? Varos finished. Yes, we were arrogant and we handled it badly, but we were not lying about the threat. Jake felt anger building in his chest. If that's true, then why didn't the Galactic Alliance listen to you? Why did they just lock you up instead of trying to understand what you were warning them about? Because by the time they captured me, my people had already killed billions of innocents, Varos said sadly. Would you have listened to warnings from someone who had just destroyed 3 star systems? Would you have trusted the word of a monster? Are you a monster? Lisa asked quietly. Varos was silent for a long moment. I became one, he said finally. I let fear drive me to do terrible things. I convinced myself that the ends justified the means. I told myself that the lives we took were necessary sacrifices for the greater good. But deep down I knew we were wrong. What changed your mind? Jake asked. Time, Varos replied. 1,200 years of solitude gave me time to think about every decision I made, every life that was lost because of my choices. I realized that there is never a good reason to become evil, no matter how noble your goals might be. Amy's voice came through the communicator again. Captain, we're getting reports from other ships in the area. The anomalies are spreading. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer. Jake made a decision that would have shocked his superiors. Varos, if we were to hypothetically consider releasing you, what would you need to fight these void swimmers? Jake, Lisa warned. We can't even think about that without council approval. The council will never approve it, Jake replied. They're too afraid of him. But if he's telling the truth about this threat, we might not have time for bureaucracy. Varos moved as close to the barrier as he could get. Captain Morrison, I understand your hesitation. I would not trust me either given my history. But I have spent every day of my imprisonment working on this problem. I know how to fight the void swimmers, but I cannot do it from inside this cell. What would you need? Jake asked again. First, access to a quantum engineering facility, Varos said. The weapons we need to build require technology that exists on the edge of possibility. Second, I would need allies. The Drakmari tried to fight this threat alone and failed. This time we must work together. And third? Lisa asked. Varos looked directly at her with those glowing eyes. I would need you to trust me. After everything I have done, after all the lives my people took, I would need someone to believe that I can be better than what I was. Ben's voice came through the communicator with urgency. Jake, we've got a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting something massive moving through the anomaly zones. Whatever it is, it's the size of a small moon and it's heading toward inhabited systems. Jake felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. Everything in his training told him to report back to the council and let them decide. But his instincts, the same instincts that had made him a successful starship captain, told him that bureaucracy might be too slow for what they were facing. Varos, he said slowly, if we help you, if we take the risk of trusting you, what guarantee do we have that you won't go back to your old ways? Varos smiled sadly. You have no guarantee, Captain Morrison. Trust by its very nature requires faith without certainty. But I can tell you this. I have had 1,200 years to plan my revenge against those who imprisoned me, and instead I have spent that time trying to find ways to save them. Lisa looked at her readings again. Jake, his emotional patterns are consistent with everything he's told us. Either he's telling the truth or he's the most sophisticated liar in galactic history. Or both, Jake said grimly. Amy's voice came through the communicator one more time, and this time there was real fear in it. Captain, you need to get back here now. We're receiving distress calls from the Kepler system's outer planets. They're reporting that their moons are disappearing. Jake looked at Varos, then at Lisa, then made the most important decision of his life. Varos, he said, we're going to get you out of there. Jake Morrison knew he was about to make a decision that could end his career, start a war, or possibly save the galaxy. As he looked at Varos through the containment barrier, he tried to push down the doubt that was eating at his stomach. Lisa, can you figure out how to open this cell? He asked. Dr. Hayes was already scanning the control systems with her equipment. Jake, are you absolutely sure about this? Once we release him, there's no going back. The moons of Kepler-7 are disappearing, Jake replied. If Varos is telling the truth about the void swimmers, then waiting for the council to make a decision could cost millions of lives. Ben's voice crackled through the communicator. Captain, I'm getting reports from all over the system. Automated defense platforms are going offline one by one. It's like they're just stopping existing. Varos pressed his hand against the barrier. Captain Morrison, the containment systems have a manual override. But be warned, the moment you release me, every alarm on this station will activate. The council will know what you have done within minutes. Let me worry about the council, Jake said. He turned to Lisa. How long will it take? The control systems are incredibly complex, Lisa replied, studying her scanner readings. But they're designed to be operated by the station's crew in case of emergency. I think I can do it, but it will take at least 15 minutes. Do it, Jake ordered. As Lisa began working on the controls, Jake activated his communicator. Ben, I need you to prepare the Independence for immediate departure. Amy, send a coded message to Earth Command. Tell them we're dealing with a galactic-level threat and that we're operating under emergency protocols. Jake. Ben's voice carried a warning tone. Warden Zektar is asking what's going on down there. The station's sensors are detecting activity in the containment area. Tell him we're conducting a detailed interview, Jake replied. Buy us as much time as you can. While Lisa worked on the controls, Varos began explaining what they would need to do once he was free. The quantum engineering facility I mentioned is located on Earth's moon. Your species has built something there that could be adapted for our purposes, though you probably do not realize it. What kind of facility? Jake asked. Your people call it a particle accelerator, but it is much more than that. With the right modifications, it could be used to create weapons that exist partially outside normal space-time. Weapons that could actually hurt the void swimmers. Lisa looked up from her work. How do you know about human technology? You've been imprisoned since before we even had spaceflight. The containment systems monitor all communications that pass through this station, Varos explained. For 1,200 years, I have been listening to the galaxy's radio chatter, learning about new species and new technologies. When humanity joined the galactic community, I paid special attention to your achievements. Why? Jake asked. Varos smiled slightly. Because you remind me of what the Drakmari were like before we became consumed by fear and arrogance. Humans have a unique approach to problems. Where other species see obstacles, you see challenges to overcome. Where others see enemies, you look for potential allies. Amy's voice came through the communicator with increasing urgency. Captain, we're receiving direct orders from the Galactic Council. They want us to cease all operations and return to Earth immediately. Ignore those orders, Jake said. Jake, Ben interrupted. Ignoring direct orders from the Council could be considered an act of rebellion. They could declare us pirates. They could also court-martial us for letting the galaxy get destroyed because we followed the rules. Jake replied, sometimes you have to choose between doing what's legal and doing what's right. Lisa's hands moved rapidly over the control interface. I think I've got it. The containment systems are incredibly sophisticated, but they're designed with multiple safety overrides. I'm bypassing them one by one. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Warning lights flashed red as automated systems detected the unauthorized access to the Dragon's cell. That's torn it, Jake muttered. How much longer, Lisa? 2 more minutes, she replied, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool air. Ben's voice came through the communicator, now clearly strained. Jake, Zektar is demanding to speak with you immediately. I'm running out of excuses. Tell him the truth, Jake said. Tell him we're releasing Varos to fight the void swimmers. There was a pause, then Ben spoke again. He says you've lost your mind. He's calling for station security to come to your location. Varos moved closer to the weakening barrier. Captain Morrison, when I am released, my powers will return gradually. At first I will be weak from centuries of suppression, but if the void swimmers are as close as I believe, my strength should return quickly in response to the threat. What will that look like? Lisa asked as she continued working. You will see energy patterns around me that your people might find frightening, Varos warned. Do not be afraid. I am not the same being who led the Drakmari Empire to destruction. I have learned the value of restraint. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the corridors leading to their location. Station security was coming. Lisa, we need to go now, Jake said. Almost there, she replied. The final containment field is incredibly complex. It's like a puzzle with 17 different locks that all have to be opened in the right sequence. Amy's voice came through the communicator again, this time with real panic. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting multiple massive objects entering the solar system. They're not following normal physics. They're just appearing and disappearing randomly. The main force has arrived, Varos said grimly. Captain Morrison, once I am free, we will have very little time to reach Earth and begin preparations. The footsteps were getting closer. Jake could hear Zektar's crystalline voice giving orders to his security team. Got it, Lisa shouted. The containment barrier flickered and died. For the first time in over 1,200 years, Varos was free. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Energy began to flow around Varos like visible wind, lifting his hair and clothes. His eyes brightened until they shone like small stars. But instead of the terrifying display of power that Jake had expected, Varos simply stepped out of his cell and bowed respectfully. Thank you, he said simply. I will not forget this trust you have placed in me. The security team rounded the corner just as Varos stepped through the doorway of his former prison. The alien guards stopped in shock, their weapons trembling in their hands. Do not fear, Varos said to them, his voice carrying a strange authority. I am not your enemy. We have a greater threat to face together. Warden Zektar appeared behind his guards, his crystalline body flashing angry red. Humans, what have you done? You have doomed us all. No, Jake said firmly. We've given the galaxy a chance to survive. Varos raised his hand and the energy patterns around him intensified. Warden Zektar, I know your people have feared mine for generations, but look beyond your fear and see what is happening to the outer systems. The void swimmers have arrived, and without my help, Every living thing in this galaxy will simply cease to exist. Zektar's color shifted from red to a deep blue as fear overcame anger. The Void Swimmers are a myth, a story the Drakmari told to justify their crimes. Then explain the disappearing moons, Varos replied calmly. Explain the gravitational anomalies. Explain why your own sensors cannot get consistent readings from the galactic rim. Jake stepped forward. Zektar, we need to get to Earth immediately. Every minute we waste here is a minute the Void Swimmers get closer to inhabited worlds. The warden looked from Jake to Varos to his own security readouts, which were showing increasingly chaotic data from the outer system. Finally, his crystalline form shifted to a pale yellow color that Jake recognized as uncertainty. If you are wrong about this, Zektar said slowly, if the dragon betrays your trust, the blood of trillions will be on your hands. If we're right, Jake replied, then those trillions of lives depend on us taking this risk. Varos looked at the assembled guards and spoke with quiet dignity. I cannot ask you to forgive the crimes of my people, but I can promise you this. I will spend whatever life I have left trying to make amends for what the Drakmari did, starting with saving this galaxy from the darkness that is coming for us all. Jake activated his communicator. Ben, Amy, we're coming back to the ship. Have the engines ready for immediate departure to Earth. What about council authorization? Amy asked. Jake looked at Varos, then at the security readings showing reality itself breaking down at the galaxy's edge. We'll ask for forgiveness later, he said. Right now we have a galaxy to save. The journey to Earth took 18 hours at maximum hyperspace speed, and every minute felt like an eternity to Jake Morrison. Throughout the trip, reports kept coming in from across the galaxy. Entire star systems were going dark, not destroyed but simply ceasing to exist as if they had never been there at all. Varos spent most of the journey in the Independence's science lab, working with Dr. Lisa Hayes to design the modifications they would need for Earth's particle accelerator. His powers had returned gradually during the trip, and Jake had watched in amazement as the former dragon manipulated matter and energy with simple gestures. The quantum field generators will need to be recalibrated to operate on 17 different dimensional frequencies. Varos explained to Lisa as they reviewed the technical specifications. Human technology is surprisingly adaptable. With the right modifications, your particle accelerator could create weapons that exist partially outside normal spacetime. How long will the modifications take? Jake asked. If we work without stopping and have full cooperation from your scientists, perhaps 36 hours, Varos replied. But I fear we may not have that long. Commander Ben Carter entered the lab with the latest intelligence reports. The Void Swimmers have consumed 12 star systems in the past 6 hours. The pattern is definitely moving toward the galactic core, toward Earth. Amy Foster looked up from her communication station. Captain, we're receiving angry messages from the Galactic Council. They're demanding that we return Varos to Kepler Station immediately. Jake made a decision that surprised even himself. Send them everything we've learned about the Void Swimmers. Every sensor reading, every piece of data Varos has shared with us. Let them see the truth for themselves. Jake, they'll never believe it, Ben warned. They're too afraid of Varos to listen to reason. Then we proceed without them, Jake said firmly. Humanity didn't join the galactic community just to follow orders. We joined to make a difference. When they reached Earth, Jake was relieved to find that Earth Command had already received their coded messages and prepared the lunar facility for their arrival. Dr. Robert Chen, the director of the Particle Accelerator Project, met them at the landing pad with a team of human engineers and scientists. Captain Morrison, Dr. Chen said, your message about a galactic-level threat was difficult to believe, but our deep space sensors have confirmed some very disturbing readings from the galactic rim. Jake gestured toward Varos, who had been respectfully quiet during the landing procedures. Dr. Chen, this is Varos, formerly of the Drakmari Empire. He knows how to fight the entities that are approaching our galaxy. Dr. Chen looked at Varos with a mixture of scientific curiosity and understandable caution. The historical records about your people are concerning. They should be, Varos replied honestly. The Drakmari made terrible choices driven by fear and arrogance. I am here to ensure that this galaxy does not pay the price for our mistakes. Over the next 30 hours, Jake watched as human ingenuity combined with Drakmari knowledge to create something unprecedented. Varos worked alongside human scientists, his cosmic engineering skills blending with their innovative thinking to modify the particle accelerator into a weapon that could strike at entities existing partially outside normal reality. But as they worked, the situation in the galaxy continued to deteriorate. The void swimmers were moving faster now, consuming star systems at an accelerating rate. The few council ships that had attempted to fight them had simply vanished, erased from existence along with any record of their crews. The quantum resonance array is complete, Lisa announced after 32 hours of continuous work. If Varos is right about the void swimmers' dimensional structure, this should be able to create barriers that they cannot simply unmake. Varos examined the modified accelerator with satisfaction. Your species continues to amaze me, he said to Dr. Chen. Where the Drakmari would have used brute force, you have found elegant solutions. This design is actually superior to what my people built 1,200 years ago. Will it be enough? Jake asked. Before Varos could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Amy's voice came over the communication system with barely controlled panic. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting massive distortions in local space. The void swimmers have reached the Sol system. Earth has maybe 6 hours before they arrive. Jake felt his heart sink. 6 hours? We need at least 12 to set up the defensive grid. Varos closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them, they were blazing with inner fire. Then we will have to make our stand here with whatever we can prepare in the time we have. What do you need? Dr. Chen asked. I need to link myself directly to the quantum resonance array, Varos replied. The weapons we have built require more power than any normal energy source can provide. I will have to channel my own life force through the system. That could kill you, Lisa pointed out. Varos smiled sadly. Dr. Hayes, I have lived for over 15 centuries. I have seen my people destroy themselves through fear and pride. If my death can prevent the same fate from befalling this galaxy, then it is a price I gladly pay. Jake stepped forward. There has to be another way. Perhaps there is, Varos said thoughtfully. Captain Morrison, your species has something that mine lost long ago, the ability to work together. The Drakmari tried to fight the void swimmers alone and failed. But if every species in the galaxy contributed their strength to the defensive grid, the Council species will never cooperate with you, Ben said. They will if they have no other choice. Amy interrupted, looking up from her communication station. Captain, I'm receiving distress calls from over 200 different worlds. The void swimmers are everywhere now. The Council species are starting to panic. Jake made another command decision that would define his career. Amy, open a channel to every ship, every station, every colony in the galaxy. We're going to make a broadcast. Jake, what are you doing? Lisa asked. Something humans are good at, Jake replied. I'm going to give a speech. When the communication link was established, Jake stood beside Varos in front of the camera. Behind them, human scientists and engineers continued working frantically to complete the defensive preparations. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Independence, he began. I'm speaking to every intelligent species in the galaxy. Right now, entities called void swimmers are destroying our civilizations. These creatures cannot be fought with conventional weapons because they attack reality itself. Jake paused, looking directly into the camera. 1,200 years ago, the Drakmari tried to warn the galaxy about this threat. They handled it badly, and innocent people died because of their actions. But they were telling the truth about the danger we all face. He gestured toward Varos. This is Varos, the last of the Drakmari. For over 1,000 years he has been imprisoned for the crimes of his people, but he is also the only one who knows how to fight the void swimmers. Today humanity has chosen to trust him. We're asking you to make the same choice. Varos stepped forward. People of the galaxy, I cannot undo the harm my people caused, but I can help you survive what is coming. The defensive grid we are building requires the combined technological resources of every species. We need your ships, your energy, your knowledge. Most importantly, we need you to work together. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. Some were angry, some were fearful, but many were offering help. The Council species, faced with extinction, began putting aside their ancient fears and prejudices. Over the next 5 hours, Jake watched something unprecedented happen. Ships from dozens of different species converged on Earth, contributing their unique technologies to the defensive grid. The crystalline technology of Zektar's people provided dimensional anchors. The energy manipulation systems of the Altarians boosted the power output. The time displacement fields of the Chronari created temporal barriers. As the void swimmers approached Earth, Varos took his position at the center of the quantum resonance array. Energy flowed around him like a visible storm as he channeled his life force into the defensive systems. "Here they come," Amy announced. On the main screen, reality itself seemed to bend and twist as the void swimmers entered Earth's solar system. They were impossible to look at directly, existing as they did partially outside normal space-time. But the sensors showed their approach, and Jake could feel a cold dread settling over him as the ancient enemies of the galaxy finally revealed themselves. The first barrier held for almost an hour before the void swimmers began to adapt. The second barrier lasted 30 minutes. But each time the creatures broke through one defensive layer, the combined fleet of galactic species was ready with another. Varos poured more and more of his life force into the grid, his body becoming translucent as his energy was consumed by the massive defensive system. But the barriers held, and slowly, impossibly, the void swimmers began to retreat. "They're falling back," Ben reported with amazement. "The quantum barriers are actually working." "Not falling back," Varos said weakly. "Returning to the void between galaxies. They cannot sustain themselves here when reality itself fights against them." As the last of the void swimmers disappeared into dark space, Varos,